Hi everyone, how's it going? This is quite the crowd, right? I think this is genuinely the largest gathering of product managers ever assembled in history, which is a terrifying thought. Does anyone know what the collective noun is for product managers? That's not a start of a joke, I genuinely don't know. The best, is that here? Compromise. A compromise of product managers, that's pretty good. So we're all about goal setting, as PMs. So if there's one goal we can set ourselves today, it's to leave this room with the canonical definition of the collective noun for product managers. So as Martin said, I'm Simon. I work at Facebook London. I work on something called Facebook at Work. I brought a bunch of other people from Facebook London with me, which are here somewhere. They're in the upstairs. It's very exciting to be at a conference with an upstairs. And I've spent most of my time at Facebook building developer products. It's been quite a journey. I've been at Facebook now 6 years, which is longer than 97% of the company, which is just like insane. And I'm pretty sure I'm a terrible product manager. At least I know I used to be. So I've spent most of those 6 years every day trying to figure out how to be a better PM, shape what I think of as product management. And so in putting together today's talk, I thought maybe that's what I should talk through. Some of these stories might be interesting and maybe even useful. And the first thought I had was one of the things that's definitely shaped my theories of product management is analogies. The kind of things I mean, right? The captain of the pirate ship. Someone's got their hand on the tiller, and it's you, because somebody has to. But if you're steering in the wrong direction, shipmates are definitely going to throw you overboard. Or the conductor of the orchestra. You're up there, but you don't necessarily play an instrument, but you're helping the players deliver an amazing experience to the audience. So I thought, okay, before I put pen to paper on this talk, I'll just check, make sure no one's talked about this before.
You probably figured that I'm going to somehow connect orchestra conductors with product managers. If you had figured that, you'd be right.
Thank you, Ken Norton. I was like, it's all right. So I grew up playing jazz drums, and one of my other favorite analogies for product management is jazz musicianship.
So I've got an analogy for you that I think is actually more apt and is much more relevant to what the world of product management really is like, and that is jazz music.
Thank you, Ken Norton. By the way, that's a great talk. That was 4 months ago at Mind the Product in San Francisco. Really, really great talk. Just an incredible set of history he talks through. Okay, so maybe analogies isn't the right place to go. What else has shaped my theory of product management? And it turns out it's the story of the PMs who came before me and the products they built. These are the campfire stories of product management at Facebook. These are the stories that I was told when I became a PM. These stories have fundamentally changed how I think about our discipline and our craft. And they're the stories that I tell new PMs as they join our team and try to orient themselves for success. And as I say, hopefully, they're not only entertaining but useful. So the first of these stories isn't even a story about a product at all. It's the story of a team and how they took an unexpected decision. This is Facebook's first main office at 1601 California Avenue. This is the first time that the entire company had been brought together under one roof, and we moved in 2009. Now, it was this huge open plan office space. Everybody worked in these big, huge areas. It was a really great place for collaboration, but some teams had their own room. This is the games team's room. These are the folks that worked on all of the game stuff like Farmville and so on. It seats 6 people. Pretty ghetto. This was at a time when Facebook was not only growing fast in terms of users, it was growing fast in terms of employees too. And this team was going to go to 8. So they had some challenges. So they tried some stuff. First of all, they had work from home. So every day, 2 different people would try and work from home. That worked for a little bit, but the team started to feel stretched. So then they put a beanbag in that right-hand corner at the back there, And like, everyone was together, but any of you sat on a beanbag for more than 10 minutes, not a great way to spend your day. So then they put a sofa outside, because they could fit it outside. And that actually worked pretty well, good for the back. But people would walk down the corridor and be like, why the hell are you guys on a sofa in the corridor? Makes no sense. So they built up. This is the games loft. So this was built over a weekend by a few of the folks on the team. They literally came in, went to Home Depot, bought some wood, and built this. It's actually pretty badass. There's like a little ladder on the left and a desk. It's pretty cool. This has become legendary. This is the games loft. And the games team's group on Facebook at work to this day is called Games Loft. Now, this has nothing to do with product management, but it's an incredible lesson in solving problems with unexpected solutions. The obvious stuff isn't always the right thing to do. And as a lesson, I think that's really important. The other thing here is that they did not ask for anyone's permission. But that's okay. So the word that encapsulates this idea, both not asking for permission and trying unexpected things, is encapsulated in one word, the word hack. And that word is so important to how we think about company culture and building products that it's baked into the concrete outside our office in Menlo Park. Next, I wanted to tell a story about this idea. You've probably heard of paving the cow paths. It's a really powerful and simple idea. Basically, it means looking at people's behavior and building products around that. And I can think of no better example than photos. This is what the Facebook profile looked like in mid-2005. This is before newsfeed, this is before timeline, before anything that you really take for granted today. In fact, it was basically profiles, i.e. a Facebook, as they call it in America. But something strange was happening. People were changing their profile picture like 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 times a day. What's going on? Well, when the team looked into it, what they found was people were using their profile picture to tell the story of their lives, minute by minute. Some of the pictures were of, them and their friends at college in the bar. Some of the pictures were, the hike they did that weekend. But this was a very momentous moment in human history, because it's the first time that people started taking and sharing pictures of their lunch. So people were using the profile picture to share photos. It was clear we had to build a photos product to help people share photos. And so the photos team came into existence. This is their original neon sign, sadly lost to history. And as they started looking at this problem space, they found some really scary stuff. Like, the team was tiny. Everything at Facebook is a tiny team, pretty much. And they faced some incredible competitors in the market. At the time, these were the major photo sharing sites on the internet: Flickr, Snapfish, Shutterfly, PhotoBucket. And they all had incredible features. They all had rotation and cropping and red eye reduction and levels and all this kind of stuff. We couldn't build any of that. We had like 3 people. So what are we going to do? We're going to build an also-ran photos product? So the team thought about this for a long time. They were really worried about it. And they thought hard. And they came up with one feature that we could build. In fact, I don't mean one feature we could literally only build one feature. And it turned out to be the most important feature of all: tagging. Turns out, most people's photos are of people. Now, all of those other photo services had built their service around photo sharing, photography as a craft. Landscapes, portraits, all that kind of stuff. Supporting tagging changed the game completely. People are the most important thing in most people's photos. And so within, I think, 2 or 3 years, Facebook had more photos than the top 10 other photo services combined. So the two lessons there is paving the cow path and doing something different. But it doesn't stop there. People were still changing their profile picture more than we expected. And we looked into it, and what was happening was people were using their profile picture to share the most important picture in their lives this week or so on, every few weeks. And in a social network, the profile picture is a pretty important thing. It's how you find who you're talking to. And so this realization led the team directly to build something that helped you share one picture about, that matters to you right now, as well as your profile picture. And that's cover photos. Cover photos took the weight off the profile picture as the way to share the most important photo for you right now. But it didn't stop there. Most people were still updating their profile picture more than we expected. And when we looked into it, something really strange was happening. People were changing their profile picture to something else, and then 7 days or so later, they were changing it back again. What's going on? So they looked into it, and people were using their profile picture to set status. Things like, I'm on holiday. And so the photos team built a product called Temporary Profile Pictures, which lets you take your profile picture, annotate it with words and some funny little things, and set it for 7 days or so. After that, it changes back. But people were still updating their profile picture more than we expected. What was going on? And when we looked into it, people were changing their profile picture roughly all around the same time. And they were using their profile picture to show support for a cause. One of the first times we saw this at scale was the Je suis Charlie movement in January 2015. And it turns out this is a really powerful idea, taking the thing that matters most in a social network, your face, and replacing it with a cause. And so this, and a few other examples of this, is directly what led to 3 people in 72 hours building Prideify, which let you put a rainbow filter over your profile picture. 26 million people updated their photo with this filter in Pride weekend in June 2015 alone. And those photos garnered 500 million interactions. These are big numbers. And the interesting lesson here, for me at least, is by paving the cow paths, by looking at what people were doing and building products around it, not only did they make it easier for those people, they helped this behavior scale to tens of millions of people. And that's the power of patterns. This directly led to the team building this product, profile picture frames, which now let you set a profile picture frame for a sports team or a league or a cause, in this case, Paralympics GB. Now, the thing that I take away from this whole story is you can trace every major piece of the Photos product back to this moment in 2005 when the team noticed how people were using the product. And instead of trying to change people's behavior, they codified it. And that is an extremely powerful idea. So next, I want to give you a home truth about product management at Facebook. I have no power. None. That's a very good thing, my engineering manager would say. And it's actually good because it forces us as a discipline to sharpen our ideas and our arguments. Everything we get done through influence. And this is one of my favorite stories of that. This is Sam Lessin. Sam is one of the most visionary product managers I know. He has this ability to take these massive trends in the world and distill them down to simple things that make the future completely obvious. If you haven't seen his talk from TEDx a couple of years ago called The End of Ownership, it's incredible. It completely frames up what's happening in the sharing economy today. So this is Sam in 2010, and this is his Facebook profile. It's 15 meters long. Now, what was happening here is that by this time, people had been on Facebook for like 5, 6, 7 years and had been chronicling every part of their daily lives into the service. And the idea that you could really see the story of someone's life is also an incredibly powerful one. But it was impossible to do. The only way to see what someone had been up to in the past was to, like, literally infinite scroll until you hit the bottom. Sam and his team thought this was an incredible opportunity to create value for people in the world. And by putting out his profile, suddenly people began to believe him. He didn't just do this once. He did it multiple times. He would rock up to meetings with like a stack of paper and be like, yo, we should do something about this. This is another one. By the way, getting these photos, like, is really hard. Like, Sam had to like dig through boxes to get these photos. And that is not where it stopped. He printed out his profile and put it on the wall of the engineering office where they were building this product. And what's so cool about this story to me is that, like, if you're thinking about product management as a discipline of influence, there's bad ways to do that. You can try and influence people at the JIRA ticket level or the story ticket level. When the team came into work, they walked past Sam's profile printed on the wall, they saw the problem, and they knew exactly what they had to do. The first version of this product shipped in late 2010. It's called Memories, and you could kind of choose a year and kind of at least kind of jump to various bits of the profile. But they kept going, and the product they shipped is Timeline. So this is a slightly weird moment in my life. This is Mark on stage at F8 2011 using my timeline to introduce Timeline to the world. I don't know what he's saying, it's probably good. And like, this idea was so big and so powerful. It's one of these products that just like completely fell in love, people completely fell in love with. Please meet Derry Saraswati. Sorry, he's a bit pixelated. This is his house. I think he was pretty pissed when we kind of redesigned it a year later. Got to keep moving. Printing out your profile, it turns out, is not a new idea. Here is somebody who's done it on the New York subway. Leafing through. Got to get the news. To be honest, I'm amazed I haven't seen more people do that in London, given the state of our Wi-Fi here. But that's something I think about every day when I'm with my teams. I think back to Sam and his 20-meter profile and think, how can I influence my team to understand the value of what we're doing in the world and why it matters? And how can I do that, not at the micro level, not through JIRA tickets and story cards and whiteboard, owning the whiteboard. How can I set the same example Sam did? Next, I want to tell a story about expectation setting. Meeting or exceeding people's expectations is an essential thing. If your product is not doing that, people will churn, and that is not good, I learned. This is a story about Messenger. Messenger is one of Facebook's most successful products, but it's actually one of the world's most successful products. Over 1 billion people use Messenger every month, and you can count on your fingers the number of consumer tech products that have hit 1 billion users. But it wasn't always that way. Messenger began as an acquisition we made in late 2010 called Beluga, incredible messaging app that launched in July 2010. And that team got to work on the first version of Facebook Messenger, which we shipped in August 2011. Now, things went really well. Great product, loads of people started using it, but it wasn't quite having the growth curve that we'd hoped. And so the Messenger team got to work on version 3 of Messenger. Now, the Messenger team was originally part of our growth team, and these are 3 posters that sit outside the Messenger team's workspace in Menlo Park, California. Understand, identify, execute, perfect execution, and do the most important things. In big red letters. The Messenger team take this stuff really seriously. And of these 3, the most important is this first one, understand, identify, execute. This is their framework for how they make sure they're working on the right things. And it's a framework I've come to know, love, and use. So let's talk through it really quickly. Understand means understand what your goal is, but critically, why it matters. There's no point working on something if you don't know how that's measuring the impact. You don't know if you're measuring the right thing to have impact on the world. Next, identify means identify the best opportunities to hit your goal. There are many things you could do, but which of them actually have the most leverage? And lastly, execute. The world is full of ideas, and there are many, many things. You waited for the last click to get the phones up, right? There are many, many things you could do. And one of the disciplines of great product people is that they know which to ignore. So how did the Messenger team use this in building version 3? OK, let's walk through it. So the first thing was the Messenger team's goal was to increase sends, right? Message sends. Very simple goal. Increase the number of sends. Why does that matter? Well, the Messenger team's mission is to reinvent everyday communication for 1 billion people. And you don't do that unless you're increasing the unit of communication in messaging, which is the send. OK, good. So they had a goal. They knew how it mapped to their mission. Identify the best opportunities to achieve your goal. All right, so there are loads of ways you could increase sends, right? Like you could probably make the button bigger or green. Green always works, apparently. In Facebook it does, anyway. You could send push notifications to people saying, it's your friend's birthday, send them a message. That's going to increase sends. But the team really looked into this, and they found something really interesting. Some people were messaging on Messenger, and then they wouldn't always get a reply straight away. And if that happened, their propensity to use Messenger for messaging in the future was lower. So what do we do about that? The reason it was happening is because they were messaging from a phone. And their natural expectation for how messaging works on a phone was derived directly from SMS. The way SMS works is you get your phone out, you send a message, you press go, and the other person's phone buzzes in their pocket, they get their phone out and reply. That's what people were expecting. And if you messaged someone who also had Facebook Messenger, that's what happened. Their phone would buzz, and they would get their phone out and reply. But Messenger was also a universal messaging app. You could message anyone on Facebook. And some of the people you messaged would get that message as a chat toast on the web. So they would get it next time they came back to their computer, 4 or 5 hours later. Some people would get those messages as emails and would reply like 5 or 6 days later. So what was happening here is people's expectations about how the product should work in no way matched reality. They had no way to determine what was going to happen. So the Messenger team identified, it turns out, that deliverability, ensuring deliverability, was the number one lever they could pull to meet people's expectations. And their execution, in my opinion, is perfect. It's something that people completely take for granted now. It's unobtrusive, it's beautiful, and it's simple. It's the lightning bolt. When you see the lightning bolt, it tells you that the person on the other end has Messenger, and you can expect them to reply pretty quickly. And if that's not there, you know to give them a bit of leeway. It's a tiny change. It's a tiny change. But it fundamentally affects how the product feels and how it works. And this is the thing, along with about 1,000 other awesome changes that shipped in Messenger in November 2013. This is when version 3 came out. And what happened next was nuts. That's the reason why Messenger got on a path to hit 1 billion users. And the story there, for me, is just simple. Is your product meeting people's expectations? Do you know it is? And where it doesn't, fix them. Okay, last one. I want to tell a story from my own experience now. So in October of 2015, my wife and I were lucky to have a daughter. And Facebook is very generous with its paternity policy, and I was going to take 5 months off. My wife was going to go back to work, and I was going to look after our daughter. Now, the main thing I had to do was look after our daughter, but there was going to be some downtime, I thought. I didn't know what to do with it. So I asked the PM core at Facebook for their book recommendations. And did they come in thick and fast? It was nuts. Turns out every PM at Facebook has like 2 or 3 books that have completely changed how they think about product management, and they were all in a single post. So I did what I thought was natural. I put it on Medium. It's what you do. Apparently, I was just really fulfilling the Silicon Valley hierarchy of needs. Awkward. And as that, this is a good one. How many have you done, yeah? I'm not wearing the t-shirt today. And as that post got picked up, one paragraph of all of them got noticed and highlighted more than any other, and it's this one. The most striking thing to emerge was the sheer breadth of subject styles and premises. In hindsight, it's not that surprising. Product management is an incredibly multidisciplinary role. Inspiration does and should come from everywhere. Now, I think I felt this. Like, I felt that product management had width. But the range of book recommendations that we got here were beyond anything I had expected. These are the books that ended up on the list, and I just wanted to take you through three of them to illustrate the spectrum. So first of all, The Design of Everyday Things by Donald Norman. Has everyone read this? Okay, good. Have you not read this? Okay. If you haven't read this, please buy it on Amazon before you leave the auditorium. You will never look at the world in the same way again. I got fooled by a push-pull door just on my way in this morning. Thank God none of you saw. The next one is Thunder Below by Eugene Fluke. All right, this is a book about a World War II submarine commander. What's that got to do with product management? Nothing. Except that it's a story of somebody motivating a team around a goal and systematically celebrating success. And every single great product manager I've ever worked with knows how to do those two things. And last of all, The Box by Mark Levinson. This is about containers, not Docker containers, actual metal boxes that move around the world. So first of all, me reading this book was the primary reason my wife bought me a Kindle. She was like so embarrassed that I took this on holiday. It's a true story, true story. Again, what has this got to do with product management, right? Well, it turns out it's the story of how a technological change can transform not only industries, but entire economies. Most of the people in this room, we work on digital products which have the power to scale to large numbers of people. And understanding how that change can affect people is hugely important when we're thinking about the impact we can have on the world. 3 books out of many that represent, to me, great product management. Okay, so what lessons are there in there that you can take away when you work with your teams on Monday or Tuesday next week? And these are the things that from these stories I think about every day as I'm working as a PM. So the first is, what's your tagging? What's the one feature that doesn't like take you into the competition, but takes you round it or over it to a place where the future will be? Pave the cowpaths. You don't necessarily have to try and change people's behavior. Some of the most successful products in the world codify it, not change it. Print out your profile. I don't mean literally, you don't have to. But just think back to Sam Lessin and his 20-meter-long profile and how he was able to influence his team with a huge idea. Understand, identify, execute. What's your goal and why does it matter? What are the right levers to help you hit that goal? And are you executing perfectly and relentlessly and with focus on that plan? And lastly, read broadly. Read more broadly than you ever thought possible. Don't just read blogs and books about product management. Read books about people, because that's who you work with, and that's who we're building for. Thank you so much.